Hey everyone, it's Case from Handmade Hero here. I wanted to go over what the Handmade Fund is for those of you who don't know, or even for those of you who already decided to contribute but maybe don't know some of the stuff that it does. So on Handmade Hero, we produce a lot of episodes that go over all kinds of low-level programming and that sort of stuff, and that's the part that I do. But actually, ever since I started it, there's been a lot of people out there on the internet who have made things related to the series or that branched off or that did things that were inspired by the series, some of which are kind of awesome, and we wanted to try and help them be supported as they try to make them more usable or more complete or continue working on them and dedicating a significant amount of time to them. So that's what the Handmade Fund does. It basically allows people who enjoy Handmade Hero to contribute to a fund that they know will pay out to various people making stuff that goes along with the series or that helps out other people doing things related to the series. So two of the big things that we do that we support on Handmade Fund are Handmade Network and the annotated episode guide. So I just wanted to kind of show you what those were. Handmade Network, if you've never seen it, is actually the place that hosts forums for Handmade Hero. We don't host any ourselves, but they host forums for Handmade Hero that lots of people participate in. It's a place where people can ask questions about things that are happening on the series and episodes that they maybe need help following along with, or just general questions related to the series if they have. And there's tons of people out there who frequent the forums who help answer those questions and help people through if they're trying to do stuff like compile something that isn't working or stuff like that. And it's a great resource for that, but it's actually so much more than that. If you click on the main Handmade Hero site, so if you just go to if you go to the main Handmade Network site, not the Hero portion of it, then you actually get a whole host of projects that are kind of in the handmade theme, right? Things which are, for example, the STB libraries that are very popular are now hosted here. People are making debugger projects. There's people making some games that are handmade. There's a series making an entire like VLSI stack thing in a handmade CPU and all this stuff. There's just great projects on here. And of course, ForCoder, the editor that we use on Handmade Hero, is actually hosted on here now, forums for that. So there's just a ton of projects that go kind of alongside of Handmade Hero that are by completely different people doing completely different things, but that you are probably interested in if you're interested in Handmade Hero. And Handmade Network has gathered those all into one place. Just a great resource. And so one of the things we do on Handmade Fund is we just pay all the hosting costs for that. And we'd like to be able to keep doing that. That's one of the really big reasons why we want Handmade Fund to continue to be successful, so we can pay for that because it's all volunteer based. They did an amazing job on the site, and we don't want them to have to pay the cost of hosting as well. So we try to fund that. And that's one of the big things we do. Another big thing we do with Handmade Fund is we fund this amazing episode guide. This was originally a work of several people out there, and now it's maintained almost entirely by one person. And it's a massive, massive archive of time markers that say basically everything that happened on Handmade Hero. So one of the things that's true about Handmade Hero, since it's supposed to capture all of the programming for a game, there's just hundreds of hours of video there. And if you're looking for something specific or just want to watch a particular thing or have a question that you think might already be answered, it would be impossible to find that if it weren't for this episode guide. And it's amazing. Let me just show you how crazy this thing is. If you want to see all the times that OpenGL is discussed, you can literally just type OpenGL, and not only does it give you a huge listing of everything that I've ever done that had something to do with OpenGL, or that it had a file related to OpenGL, or a function that had OpenGL in the name, but you can click right on one of these things and it will jump you to that place in that episode. And I'll discuss sort of some things that we can do and some things that we can't do. So if you take a look at what happens in our, right, and it's even got the time here, you can jump directly to it, and you can see all the rest of the stuff that happened. Now, it's even crazier than that. It's got web links that reference, for things that reference out to other things. You can actually just get hyperlinks in here to them, so it's a great viewer for the series in addition to just being a good way to find things. It also has stuff like labels on them where, you know, I've done things like if I go on a rant or something, it's got that, or if I say something related to a specific thing, it's got that in there. There's also the credits list, so you can see who contributed to this part of the series if there are other people involved. All sorts of stuff like that, right? And even a quotes thing. which I probably say a lot of stupid things on Handmade Hero, well, they're all captured in here. So that's another thing we fund out of the Handmade Fund. And we'd love to continue doing that because it's thanks to the Handmade Fund, we can pay to have it kept completely up to date for the entire series. And so every time a new series airs, it actually goes up on there. So that's what we do with Handmade Fund right now. And as Handmade Fund expands, if more people contribute to it, we will give more to those projects. And we'll also set aside money for other projects as we can find them. One of the big things we'd like to do is get a new debugger out there that we can use. And we'd also like to give some more money to the image program that we use on Handmade Hero. It's called Milton. It's this drawing program that I use every episode. That was actually made by someone in response to the series as well. And so there's just been so many great projects out there. There's no lack of people to fund with Handmade Fund. So we'd love to expand it and have more money to give away every month to people doing great things. Now, you may also ask, in addition to those things that I've been showing that maybe you think are worth funding, another question would be, what do I get if I fund? Because it's not nothing, actually. I put together a little bonus pack as a thank you, and I'll just kind of go over some of that stuff now. Basically, what I did is I went back over old code stuff that I had back from when I was in junior high school or in high school or stuff when I used to program in DOS, or in the very early like Win 3.1 days, that sort of stuff that can still be run on today's computers. And I kind of pulled that source code together and I put together a little bonus pack. And it's something that will update over time as we have more stuff to add to it as well. So if you take a look, when you subscribe to Handmade Fund, no matter how much you pledge to support, it doesn't matter which level, you get the bonus pack. So it's just included with every contribution, no matter large or small. And what we have in it is we've got a concept art directory that we're going to fill up with Handmade Hero concept art. I put all of Yangshin's original concept art in there. We're going to put Anna's concept art in there too as more comes online, that sort of stuff. So that, and we'll probably put other Handmade Hero related art things in here eventually as we go, as the series kind of goes more to completion. But in addition to those, we've got all the programs I was talking about, and I just kind of go over some of those right now. So starting really early on, we've got this DOS directory, and I actually just kind of rigged DOSBox to be able to play these. There's a number of different amusing little programs in here that I made. For example, this is my very first triangle rasterizer. You can see it doing a test of a texture map garrote shaded triangle in DOS. Right, you can see it varying the colors. It didn't have dithering. You can see some really bad banding there, right, for example. And this is just kind of like, you know, amusing stuff that you had to do back then and when I was first learning. So, you know, you can go in here and it's actually got, you know, the original C files as they were at the time that I wrote them, and you can go through and see what it looked like. Some of it's actually very similar to the way I program now. Some things haven't changed. Other things have changed quite a bit, and it's kind of interesting to see what those look like. So there's a bunch of stuff like that. Other DOS things, there's like a little crazy like flight simulator thing that I had been working on there that's really nuts. It's kind of when I was just first figuring out how to do 3D stuff, it's super touchy. I think probably because, you know, maybe it ran at a much slower frame rate, or maybe the mice were a lot less sensitive back then. I don't know. But it's kind of just a funny walk kind of back down memory lane when I look at these things to sort of see how, you know, things that nowadays I would think are kind of laughably simple to make were like really hard for me back then as I was just learning and stuff. And again, all the source code's included in that, so you can kind of see how those things were created as well, which is kind of interesting even for me to look back at now. I also included sort of some other things here, some more modern programs. For example, this is a prototype, 3D prototype that I did. I won't spoil the fun for you launching that one. It's kind of bizarre. It's basically, well, maybe I will spoil the fun. So if you go in here, it's basically a little 3D prototype of sort of inside of a cell with a bunch of things in it, and it was sort of it was a cool little prototype of a 3D user interface back in the day. My favorite thing to do is right-clicking in this thing causes the camera to follow something. So if you right-click on somebody, which is a little harder to do here, oh man, that loud sound. The camera will actually kind of follow them till it gets to them, which it takes it a while to do sometimes when they're kind of squirrely. And it's just kind of fun to sort of follow them through the weird sort of cell membrane thing. And it also had some fun code in it. It just like, it's not very much code, but it does all sorts of stuff. Like all this is software rendered. with like a brush and ham line routine, and it even has picking and that all sort of stuff. It's kind of fun to see how it goes in there. And of course, everyone was named after people from the book Hackers, I think, is where that came from. Anyway, so it's got some of that stuff in there. Also, a little project I did, again, a long time ago. These are like high school era stuff, where I just made like a little program for mapping adventure games. This one was kind of fun. I still really like the interface. It basically is a really quick interface for making sort of adventure games, adventure game maps that I thought was kind of cool. It's still like a really fluid and fun way to do it. I find it's like a nice way to click through it. I really like the interface. Anyway, so a bunch of these things are here. All of the sources included for all of them, so you can pick through it. And there's a little thank you file that actually lists what they all are in case you forget from my pretty poor description there. And you can kind of go through those. And again, we add to those occasionally when we find things that we think would be interesting in there just from the archives that we can put in there. Maybe we'll add some more stuff later, but we update it, you know, once a year or so with some new stuff as we find it. So anyway, that's the entirety of Handmade Fund. We'd love it if you want to contribute, and we try very hard to make sure that it's a lot easier than, say, Patreon or anything like that. It's pretty much just processing fees. There is no one who takes anything off the top. It's handled entirely by us. So it's basically just credit card processing fees is the only part that comes out of your donation, and we tried pretty hard to make the donation model be something that would minimize those fees. So for example, unlike on something like Patreon, if you want to give $1 a month to a project, that can be very difficult to do because the credit card processing fees on $1 are quite high. We've put in things that allow you to do stuff like pledge $12 a year instead of $1 a month to avoid having those credit card processing fees really add up or cause problems for you. So we tried to make that really easy too. If there's things we can do to make it easier for you, please let us know, but we hope that it's pretty straightforward. And again, anyone who pledges gets the bonus pack, so that should be straightforward. It happens exactly the same way as the Handmade Hero pre-order works, where you get a Send Owl download link and you can go download it anytime you want. And whenever it's updated, you can go download the new stuff. So hopefully you'll check that out. And thank you for taking the time to take a look at Handmade Fund and look at it. We think that it's already done some really great stuff, and we're really happy that it's something that people have given to and that we've been able to provide money to people who are doing awesome stuff. So we hope to continue. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you on the next episode of Handmade Hero. Take it easy.